Everybody, and welcome to the Suwannee County Board of County Commissioners meeting for December 7th, 2021. At this time, we get Commissioner Stapleton to do the invocation and pledge.
Let us pray. Lord, we just come before you tonight to deal with the business of the county. But more importantly, I ask you to, on this evening, I ask you to help us remember this country and all the great sacrifice of Pearl Harbor and what it stands for, and how all those folks fought for our freedoms to allow us to be doing what we're doing this evening. Also, I would like to ask for you to put your arms around the Commissioner White's family as he deals with his mother's illness. We ask you to help heal her, help comfort her, and help comfort his family. We do all these things in Christ's name we pray. Amen. Amen. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, let's move along to the approval of the minutes for November 15th, 2021 regular board meeting. Do you have any discussion or a motion?
Move to approve minutes. Second.
Be a motion by Commissioner Land and a second by Commissioner Fleming. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Moving on to the consent agenda, we're going to pull number 8 for discussion. So do I have, is there any others? Anybody? So, is there any discussion on items 2 through 7 and number 9?
Make a motion to approve. I'll second.
Motion by Commissioner Hale, second by Commissioner Stapleton. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen.
Number 8.
Yeah, sorry, Commissioner. Go ahead.
Yeah, on number 8, authorization to bid clearing and grubbing of the fire station on site. I'm assuming that's US 129 North.
That's correct.
That's correct. I have a question about that. Why don't we, instead of bidding the clearing and the grubbing of the fire station, we have merchantable timber there. Why don't we address the timber sale that may prevent us from having to spend the money on the clearing? I mean, I know it's been done once, but there's a significant timber highs has been.
I think the idea is actually, rather than bid, was to do an RFP and try to recognize the value of the property. We can get an opinion of value, and then accept proposals that recognize that value against what's being done there. And ultimately, when we get some numbers on the actual grubbing part, which is all the stumps that are left behind, we may decide to do that ourselves.
I'm confused. You're gonna get a RFP? It doesn't say anything about an RFP, so explain. Give me a little more
A
detail.
request for proposals allows us more flexibility. It just says, give us your proposal. We try to go ahead and get a value on the timber, and then we accept proposals from those companies that would remove that timber, and us realize the value against the cost of clearing the property. We're not planning to clear the entire property, probably maybe 2.5, 3 acres is what needs to be cleared for what we need to do. The stumps are the worst part of the project. The stumps, if we get a price for that as a grubbing number, then we can make a decision on whether or not we want to try to do it ourselves.
My question is, the item says authorization to bid clearing and grubbing of the fire station site.
Right.
What I would like to see us do is have number 8 read in the form of authorized to bid existing timber or RF, an appraisal, a timber evaluation to determine before we spend, I just want to make sure I say this in a way that everybody understands it. Before we hire a skid steer or anybody to go in there and grub or clear, I think we need to look at evaluating a potential timber sale, because if we do the timber sale first, that may eliminate any clearing, we want to eliminate the stumps, I understand that, but it may eliminate any underbrushing or anything like that, a skidder and a timber crew's gonna,
We're actually planning to do that ourselves.
if you're gonna harvest the timber?
No, the undercutting, the brush that you're talking about, we went out and looked at it the other day, and we're gonna go ahead and get that piece out of the way. So you're gonna have pine trees there. If you would prefer, just wait, and let's see what the value of the timber is, we can do that and then come back. And then you can make a decision on what you wanna do with it.
Well, we're gonna do, I'm even more confused. If we're gonna do this ourselves, why are we bidding and clearing?
We're not doing all of it. We're not doing all of it.
So we're just.
I don't have any intentions of us cutting down all those pine trees and trying to do something with them.
That's
The
what-
part that we can do is the brush that's out there. We can do all the underbrush cutting, get that cleared up and out of the way. We went out and looked at it last week. That does not include cutting down the pine trees.
Right.
Those pine trees were already thin. They're really spread out and very thin out there, but there's clearly some type of value.
Yeah, so why don't we evaluate and attempt, have a solicit offers on the sale of the timber? I know you don't intend on harvesting all of it, but we don't know at this point where the building's gonna go or not gonna go. So, I mean, why wouldn't we sell the timber, sell all the timber, whatever's there? I mean, I don't know what the county's gonna do with the timber. If the timber sale, as high as timber prices are, will help offset stump removal or anything that we have to bid out that we can't do, why wouldn't we, you know, it's just a pleasure of the board, but why wouldn't we consider a timber sale and just sell the timber? I mean, as high as it's been in months, as in 24, 36 months. I mean, we're sitting on several $1,000s there.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I would just, I mean, it's not a bad idea, and I also think it would probably take some time to get someone to do it, because like everyone was behind getting to do it, it may take months before someone can even do it.
Where I was going with that, and another reason timber's so high is because it's so wet, that is dry.
So they would get it first.
They may, there's
I got you.
crews, I mean, I get calls all the time on my personal property, hey, you wanna cut your trees? I see
got
it's
you.
a hill, and I'm already cutting trees, well, I need a dry spot to move to.
That's true.
Mr. Harris, was you intended on cutting the trees, or were y'all intended
Absolutely not.
on leaving them?
No.
or-
The only trees that I was concerned with, period, were the ones that were in the way of what we need to do for the improvements. Now, you can change the wording any way you want to. We can accept bids on the trees, period. Or we can accept bids on the clearing and the grubbing. If we get the bids on clearing or grubbing separate from the trees and their removal, then I'll have an idea, and the board will too, if we should try to do the grubbing ourselves, but it would not include the entire property, it would only be the part of the property where we're planning to do improvements. But I can do it any way you want to. If you just want to wait and let's go get a price on all of the trees on the entire property being removed, we can do that.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
I would just, my thought process on that is as high as timber is, it's already been thin, meaning that it was thin for a second harvest to come along, to thin it, what's left grows quicker and faster, eliminate competition by the other trees. That's why that was done, so why not, let's look at what kind of value do we have today in those trees, and I understand he may not wanna cut them all, but if we're sitting on 20 grand, let's cut them all and replant them if we don't need the back 5 acres or whatever, versus spending 20 grand out of our pocket to go do some underbrushing on the front 2 acres or 4 acres or whatever it is. I mean, I think that, yeah, I mean, it might, it's high and dry and it's been thinned, and it was thin for a second harvest, that's why he thinned, that's why anybody thins it.
Well, I don't have a problem with getting that.
Getting some
It's
type
just
of
something to
appraisal
look
on
at.
trees.
Appraisal on it, that's fine with me, anybody else?
Mr. Chairman, I would duly anticipate cutting the trees, but not in the planting of trees, because there's gonna be a fire station there. So, you're looking at 10 acres, 11 acres, that possible that's out there. But do we wanna just clear cut it? And you do want, apparently you want some trees out there on that particular property. But can't say that they're not $20,000. Can't say that. I don't believe it's $20,000.
I don't think it,
100%.
I'm sorry, I don't think it's gonna take that long to get a timber appraisal on that. Just to see what it's worth, so, I mean, we're not saying we're going out there clear cutting it at this point, we're just gonna see how much it's worth. Is that what I'm understanding from you, Mr.
Yes, sir,
Chairman?
I'd just like to know what kind of value we're sitting on before we start spending money out of the pocket.
Well, I agree with that. If we're gonna see what's out there.
That's correct, I think that's what he's suggesting is just a timber appraisal, just to see what we've got there.
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
I'd say just to clean this up just a little bit, let's ask or direct Mr. Harris to give us an appraisal on the entire property, per acre appraisal. And then if we're gonna go out there and you wanna have a certain amount of acres not cut, then whatever the acres are that they do cut, you got per acre to lay out for where the station is, I'm saying. You could probably have that back by our next meeting, we'll come in here with the next meeting with appraisal, and say, hey, we're gonna cut it all, we don't wanna cut it all, we'll get a vote on it and move forward.
Sounds good to her.
That work, Mr. Harris?
Is that good with you?
Works fine for me.
Looks good. So, what do we need to do with this now? Do we need to change this?
Sorry, just leave it alone.
Just leave it.
I'll just bring it back.
Let's go.
I'll just bring the number back.
Bring us back to price and.
Okay, moving along to the time-specific items at 5:05 PM or soon thereafter, as this matter can be heard on a public hearing to consider adoption of a resolution pertaining to special permit for special permit request number SP 21-1201 by Tower Engineering Professionals. Authorized agents for, you want to say that for me, Ron? Is it Imus Investments LLC be granted a special permit under section 14.11 of the Suwannee County Land Development Regulations for an essential service, 150-foot monopole communications tower and associated equipment on the property zoned Ag 1. Mr. Attorney?
All right. If anybody in the audience thinks that they may give testimony regarding this matter, would you stand and be sworn? Okay, do each of you raise your right hand, please? Okay. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give before the board this evening will be the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Okay, as you approach the podium to be able to speak, please state your name and address clearly for the record. Thank you.
Ms. Bates?
Mr. Chairman, board members, the application that you have, the special permit request to construct a 150-foot telecommunication tower. The property is located in an agricultural one zoning district. Land development regulations in section 14.11 do allow for essential service telecommunication towers to be constructed in the county with special permit approval from the Board of County Commissioners. Parcel of land is located on a 132-acre tract. Access to the site would be off Bull Farm Road. Tower will be built for co-location, meaning that it can handle multiple carriers. The initial request, the primary carrier for the construction is Verizon. The associated information in the agenda packet, you'll see some information stating the need from Verizon, showing their coverage maps and areas where their coverage is deficient. So they would be the first carrier, and anyone else that would come thereafter would be, their equipment would be permitted through the building department under electrical permit for co-location on the tower. We have a proposed resolution included in your packet. If the board so chooses to approve that, we've included the conditional language in there that the board has requested on previous special permits for telecommunication towers in regarding the Suwannee County would be granted co-location use of the tower at no charge for the purpose of locating emergency communication equipment if the request, or at the requested minimum height of 90 feet if the need were to ever come up. And the board has kind of had that standard through some of the previous special permit communication tower construction approvals. So at this time, I don't have anything else to add. If the board has any questions of me, I can answer them. But there is a representative from Tower Professional here to answer any technical questions you have in regard to the site. At this time, I will enter the file into the record.
you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Pease. I'll take the file and it's composited exhibit number 1.
Now, I open the floor to the public. I'm sorry, any questions by the board or staff?
I don't have any at this time.
I'll now open the floor to public comment. Anybody wishing to speak? Welcome, and can we just get your name and address for the record, please?
Good evening, my name is Harold Timmons. I'm here on behalf of Tower Engineer Professional Wireless. My address is 906 Jamesville Parkway, Greensboro, North Carolina. I'm here to answer any questions that you might have, but we're hoping and seeking approval tonight of the 150-foot tall structure that will be primarily initially used by Verizon Wireless to help improve service within this particular area. This request has been generated by a number of different complaints and performance issues within the network that serve this particular area. So we think that this is an appropriate way to address that need, and we're hoping that you will grant us approval tonight.
Thank you, sir. Anybody have any questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir. Mr. Lane.
I don't really have any particular questions about this project, but how do I go about getting some more sites on the list?
Well, generally speaking, even though you can call it and you complain and you don't think anything is happening, they actually are taking your complaints down and where they're coming from, and then they're looking at the network to see how it's performing in that particular area. After a certain number of calls are generated, they then will then issue a need for improvement to the area like they did this particular one, and they'll send a company out like ours to find a location and do exactly what I'm doing here. So that's actually the best way for the community to say, okay, look, the service is not very good, but you call and just generally remember their complaints and advice. That's the most effective way.
Our fire chief is here and our sheriff is both here, and I think they could attest that, we got several dead spots that their guys.
I certainly will take that back to them, because I do believe that, I'm not involved with it, but I believe the company that I work for, we are looking at a second site somewhere in the county, so within a few months or so, we have that requested.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Thank you, sir. Appreciate you. Is there anyone else from the public wishing to speak? Name and address, please, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Gwendolyn Johnson. My address is 14614 61st Place in Durham. I live about 2 miles from the approximation of where the tower would be, and I think that it would be a great idea for the tower to be there. Not only for myself, but for the community, but for me. I work in the healthcare industry, and I can't make a phone call to not one of my clients from my house. I have to either go outside, find a spot that I can sit in during the day to make those calls, or I have to go into town and work at a restaurant. So I think that should be taken into consideration that, you know, all of our phones have to work on the Wi-Fi. We can't use our phones for the purpose of why we are having a contract with our provider at this time.
Thank you. I won't disagree. Is there anyone else from the public? At this time, I'll now close public comment. Is there any board discussion, or do I have a motion?
Chairman, I have a motion approved.
I'll second.
That's a motion by Commissioner Fleming, a second by Commissioner Stapleton. All in favor? All opposed? Same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Ron. At this time, I'll now close public hearing. At this time, we have a presentation by Mark Durham, Director of Maintenance and Facilities.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. We've got a group of people that work for us that are great. They work without anybody ever noticing them. They're here all the time. And to tell you the truth, with what we just came through, they are our true first responders.
Because if they're not responding, our buildings are sick, and the people that are responding to the other people can't respond either. We've had good communication with our fire rescue team here and the sheriff's department, and we work diligently together. I just want to read something that I prepared for this. Our custodial department began sanitizing in August of 2019. At that time, we were fogging county buildings weekly for cold and flu season. So we were ahead of COVID. We were already doing it. COVID arrived in the U.S. in February of 2020. And upon the arrival of the virus, we began fogging county facilities daily, after hours, along with hotspot cleaning, doorknobs, door handles, chairs, arms, keyboards, etc., using sanitizing spray and microfiber rags. In June of 2020, fogging had to increase. We were fogging 2 times a day in our heavy use facilities, and once at midday and the second time after hours, along with spot spraying. And our staff, were testing all the areas, along with spot spraying. The staff was testing positive for the virus themselves. We had people who were just getting sick left and right, just like everybody else. All the time, they were continuing their prior established cleaning procedures and the increased sanitization procedures. While sharing the equipment with the Suwannee County Fire Rescue Department and the Sheriff's Department, and sanitizing equipment and vehicles, and having fogging equipment failures due to excessive use, we are now on our 3rd generation of fogging equipment. Now, we continue to maintain a high level of standard that we always had, and we're continuing to sanitize. We've had ups and downs. You know, the virus got bad, kind of eased up. Got bad again. Guess what? It's coming again. We were seeing it again. While dealing with all these issues, and at times our own staff testing positive for the virus, they have still maintained an aggressive sanitization response to ensure the safety of the citizens of Suwannee County and their employees. And for that, I would like to, along with you, the board, we've had this discussion, present an award to our custodians. And if y'all will, come up. This out in just a minute. I'm gonna read this out. Y'all go ahead and stand up here. We'll hand them out to you. Yeah, I know y'all don't want to stand up. The certificate simply says, where you at? Come on, Nisi. Put that phone down. Come on. Be slow. All right. The certificate simply says, this certificate is awarded to the individual for extensive hours of service in maintaining a safe environment for the staff and citizens of Suwannee County by conducting thorough cleaning, evaluation, sanitization protocols throughout all county facilities during the COVID pandemic, with deepest gratitude for all of their hard work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Here.
Sure he deserved one.
Some days. Lisa, try to get your pictures.
For the newspaper. All right, everybody.
Mark, get in
You
there.
get it, you Mark.
3, 2, 1.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Yeah, appreciate you.
Okay, moving along to the general business, item number 12, discuss with possible board action, preliminary plat approval of Marks Point subdivision. Mr. Meeks.
Mr. Chairman, board members, this is a preliminary plat approval of Marks Point subdivision. Size of the subdivision is 22.10 acres in size. Contains a total of 4 lots containing 5.5 acres more or less in size. Subdivision is located at the intersection of 217th Road and County Road 250. It's also bordered on the north by Lancaster Road. Access to the lots will be limited to 217th Road via shared driveway access between the 2 lot lines. There'll be a 60-foot easement established there that the driveway permits would apply to. And the access would be shown on the plat. We reviewed the plat, found it to be in compliance with the land development regulations. There was one note Mr. Pravat and I had looked at in a review. The bottom right-hand corner of the preliminary plat has a surveyor certificate. There was a language discrepancy there in that there was mention of Columbia County. We've had the surveyor change that, and I've been supplied a digital copy of the office, and we've made a copy as part of the file, changing that over to Suwannee County. So we would be asking the board to look at giving the preliminary plat approval for the subdivision. I don't have anything else to add at this time. I'll enter the file into the record for the board.
Take the file in as composite exhibit number 1.
Is there any discussion anyone on this? Or do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Lynn, second by Commissioner Stapleton. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Thank you, Mr. Meeks.
Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it very much.
Item number 13, discuss with possible board action renewal of liability insurance for airport.
Okay, Commissioners, if you try to make sense of this, you'll be better than I was trying to figure it out. My inquiry was to the issue of the cost going up. We haven't had any claims out there. You'll notice we have terrorism coverage and we've got war coverage and lots of other coverage here, but what we had was an agreement on 3 years' worth of a fixed premium previously. If you look at the bottom of the page, that first page, your cover page, it was, total charge was $4,668 a year. The new single year coverage at the top of the page would be $5,806. They're offering us 3 years at $6,678. That's plus the additional optional war coverage. I'm not sure if they're trying to represent that there's a benefit in going with 3 years. That's what confused me when I looked at that number. I said, this isn't much of an incentive. So when I inquired as to why these numbers were going up so drastically, we got the response that I just shared with you that's highlighted there. And it's just about a paragraph. If, Mr. Chairman, would you allow me to read this into the record?
Go ahead, Mr. Harris, thank you.
So the public can have a true appreciation for what you're trying to figure out here. Again, we haven't had any claims in the past 3 years. So my inquiry into the premium increase, this is by and large the response we got. Because of the last few years of current volatility of the aviation insurance market, carriers are having to increase aviation insurance rates anywhere from 15 to 30% or more. New losses continue to take place and older losses continue to develop. Premium increases have not yet achieved a level where the market is in a profitable position. Aviation insurance carriers are still under internal economic pressures and remain unwavering in achieving underwriting profitability. As we cross the midpoint of 2021, we are seeing continued price escalations and an extension as an extension of 2020 price activity. Price increases and coverage reductions are affecting the entire aviation class of business. So that's the response that we got for why these rates are going up. The insurance industry isn't profitable yet, and this aviation insurance. So like I said, when I looked at the numbers here, I mean, usually these types of things are fairly easy to come in and make a recommendation on. This is one of those occasions where it wasn't that easy because it just didn't make much sense. To go with a 3-year rate, typically you would think there's some kind of discount involved in this. But really what you're doing, because they've given you the first year's rate, you're really talking about 2 additional years. So you're not locking in the first year's rate, it's actually going up to $6,678 instead of $5,800. So what's the board's pleasure? Do you want to go with a 3-year rate again at the $6,678, and do you want the optional war coverage, which adds another $180 to it? They're saying approximate additional annual premium, $180. Or do you want to go with a 1-year rate at $5,806.90 plus $120 for the optional war coverage insurance?
So they're roughly going up, if you take the 3-year deal, it's 10% roughly a year increase from this first payment. Is that, am I reading that right? From 1 year to 3 years, they're offering it to you at 10%, I guess, instead of 15 to 30%, is what they're saying here.
Yeah, you need to add, if you're gonna do the war coverage, just go ahead and add that to it.
Do we really need to do that? I mean, I know it's not much money.
We don't have wars here very often.
I don't think we need more coverage.
That'd be a definite no on my
Yeah.
part.
What I don't have is a separate number on terrorism. It isn't a requirement.
So that's not included.
Well, it is included in this. This rate includes the terrorism. But if you're gonna add the war, it's a separate number. It's that either 120 or 180, depending on which plan you go with.
Okay, so the war coverage is.
Did we get proposals from anybody else, or is this the only game
This
in
is
town?
something
Or
that we've been using forever. It says optional coverage is terrorism. This is back about 3 pages. $480 for terrorism. War coverage would also be $480, but it's being reduced to $120 if you've already agreed to have terrorism.
Well, we don't know what the terrorism premium is included in that top three.
It's on the 3rd page.
just $480?
The 4th page.
So we could back 480 out. of
4th
that third
page.
number?
Yeah, you go down, it says $480 for, near the bottom of the page. That 4th page.
I see it.
Terrorism is $480, war coverage is also $480, unless it's reduced to $120 because you're adding it to terrorism.
Mr. Pravat,
Yes, sir.
is there any problem with not doing the terrorism insurance? I mean, I understand insurance, but I'm talking about from a legal standpoint.
No, sir. Typically, though, as touch base with Greg, but although it's not required, FAA typically asks you to, get that part covered. Because if you're gonna have an event, that's really what's gonna be happening. Somebody dropping in on you, I guess.
Makes sense. Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I just ran a couple quick numbers. The annual, the difference between the single year and the 3 years, $872 more. If you go with the 3 year. The difference between the single year, the 5806.90 and the 4668, which was our current year or last year, is $1,138. So I guess something for the board to consider would be, is if we go with the single year, do we want to gamble that years 2 and 3.
Locking yourself.
Yeah, will we be exposed to that $1,100, $1,200 increase for year 2 and 3? Or do we wanna roll the dice and go ahead and pay, lock in for years 2 and 3 at an $872 increase? That's.
I guarantee it ain't going down.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think we should, just my.
You're actually speculating on when the insurance industry will become profitable.
That's
That's what
correct.
they're telling you.
And they never be profitable if you listen to
If you
them.
listen to them, yeah, they're all good, but that's. I would probably lean toward the 3 year, just for budgetary purposes. It seems to be, I don't know that we need the war part, but I would probably, for budgetary items, and it's not, it's less, the increase is less than what our renewal rate is, the increase. That's where I'm at, but.
Well, that's kind of what I was thinking myself.
Yeah, I agree with you.
66, 78, 10.
66, 78, 10.
Yes, sir.
If you're not, if the war's not in that, then great. If it is, then I'd back out the war. I don't know.
No, it hasn't been added. We're showing that as an optional additional $180.
Mr. Provide, is that another FAA requirement
Yes, sir.
on the water part?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman. Yes, sir. Mr. Paving.
Mr. Harris, I got a question for you, I don't know if you can answer it, but on that page you was looking at, third or fourth page there,
Right.
where it says, conditions, and then it has exclusions, does everyone see that?
Yeah, but I think if you go down, it says optional coverage below it, and that's where it kicks back in.
They take everything out and then give you an opportunity to buy
Buy it back.
for it.
Buy in.
Right.
I would assume, Mr. Stedman, that's what all would be covered if we did go with the terrorism and war coverage.
Do we have, Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Do we have war and terrorism now? No. Currently on policy? Or what
It's
area
still
what
got
have we
terrorism. It doesn't show, yeah, I guess, I don't have a copy of the, I don't have a copy of the current. Right here.
I mean, surely previous boards have determined the coverage that we have now is.
Ms. Pennington just advised that this is the first year that they've offered war coverage.
That's what I was betting right there, was a new little caveat to their premium schedule.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, yes, sir, Mr. Fleming.
Ms. Pennington, this is the first year, is it a requirement or is it
No,
just?
sir, it's not
Okay, it's offered. I say we should ask our legal, if you can find out, just for that. You can find out for this board, where we stand on that war coverage. It's not a requirement, but I know it's ultimately our decision, but if you give us some guidance.
Yes, sir. I can read the policy, and since it's a new thing to, be able to come back with it later, but honestly, I don't have it in front of me, and I really didn't look at it.
Okay. Chairman, would that be okay?
If you so desire, Mr. Fleming, I just would soon just exit out. If that's all right with you.
Exit out the war coverage?
Yes, sir, just the war coverage. Keep the terrorism, but delete the war coverage.
Okay, so we'll stay with what we got. You found me.
Any other further discussion? And are we,
we're not gonna do war coverage, and we are gonna do it for 3 years.
is that pretty much consent everybody on 3 years?
I'm good. Yes, sir.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Got it,
You need a vote on that?
please.
Make a motion that we go with the 3 year premium excluding the war addition.
Second.
That's a motion by Commissioner Land and a second by Commissioner Stapleton for the 3-year premium. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen. Item number 14, discuss with possible board action surplus and sale of a 6.3 acre parcel located on State Road 51. Mr. Harris.
Commissioners, you've got a copy of the appraisal report of $58,000 for that piece of property. I don't know if we Didn't we surplus this before? We had
It's
some
more or less like
conversation about it.
15, there's a 15 adjacent to it.
Yeah, I can't remember if when we had that follow-up conversation, if we went ahead and surplus it then, but in any event, if we did not, we're gonna need to go ahead and vote to surplus, and then you're gonna need to set a minimum price. That's why we went ahead and got the appraisal on it. $58,000.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir, Mr. Wayne.
Commissioner Harris, I should have asked this earlier. What was the appraisal on the 15-acre piece?
I don't
You,
remember.
I don't remember.
I don't remember, but I can tell you right now, I've been watching some of the numbers lately. I think it would be reasonable to consider $10,000 an acre on this. A lot of these parcels this size are going for at least that.
Where I was going with that is if I'm okay with surplus and the board can set the price, but we also surplus an adjacent property. I don't know if we have any, contracts or offers on the table yet or not, with Mr. Poole's office. But in the event that, someone wanted to buy both parcels, I would entertain a potentially a little bit less price than versus the 6 acre.
I think at one of the last meetings, it was discussed that they would put that back in, and give somebody an opportunity to look at one parcel versus the other parcel or the combination. So, again, when you get the offer, that's placed in there like that, then you can put them, just look at them, okay, between y'all. 1 and 2 together, 1 by itself, 2 by itself.
Okay.
And am I correct in this, we're still on the 60, we got it out there for 60 days?
Yes, sir.
I'm getting some blowback from people, it hasn't been many, but 1 or 2 that's trying to buy a piece, and they're saying they're thinking that's way too long of a time span. I know we're trying to get the most we can get out of it, and obviously, I'm sure 60 days is better than 30 days, but I was just putting out there what I'm hearing. I don't know if any of the rest of you had that conversation with anybody.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I've heard that a time or two myself. My response to those inquiries are, usually it takes 2 to 3 days to get a piece of property in an MLS, multiple listing service, but sometimes it could be 3 weeks before that particular property makes it into any print advertising. So my thoughts that I tell these folks are, hey, listen, we're just trying to get a little bit of market exposure before we close we'd like to get a little bit of exposure out there versus boom, it's in MLS for 2 days and we got offers and we close the book and it's gone, kind of like a fire sale. We would like a little bit of exposure to justify to other folks, why, if we were to sell it really quickly like that and not have any exposure. That was my response to that.
Mr. Chairman, I know you had mentioned one time before that someone had made an offer. Is it kind of along the same lines as that?
Yeah, well, they thought it was gonna sell, whatever the advertised price was, they could buy it for that. And then I think we came back and did, 30 days, and then we went back and did 60 days. And so, just some confusion, I think, with the public on that. I don't have a problem with 60 days, and I guess we're just readdress this, that it is 60 days advertised, and they can put in an offer. And then the board opens those offers at the end of the 60 days.
No, we're opening those. The clerk, they'll be turned over to the clerk initially. Clerk holds on to them the same way that they do bids. There's a time and date certain that have to be turned in by the real estate company. Then they will be opened at an advertised location, probably here like we do bids. All those numbers will be read out aloud. Then they'll be assembled on a spreadsheet, and they'll come back into the county commission's regular board meeting for your consideration. You'll go through them and decide what you want to do with those offers.
Mr. Provide.
One of the things Mr. Wainwright just directed my attention to, y'all are going back over this 30, 60, and 90 days. And it's, Mr. Wainwright, said it was 90 days, not 60 days.
My bad, I thought it was 60 days.
I do, Mr. Chairman, I do remember us
I
having.
think it was an additional 60 from the time that we had started 30 days earlier, is what it amounted to. That-
Was there some average, we were talking about average, I mean, maybe what you were saying, getting in the print or something like that.
Just a little bit of market exposure.
Yeah.
We were hard.
Seems like I remember that conversation.
But I mean, I'm doing whatever the board wants to do, 60 days, not whatever.
Well, I don't wanna keep changing it, cause we're already, I mean, I'm confused on this whole thing, so.
I don't think we've had the 90 days since the last discussion, I think.
It's 90 days total, that's what the board decided the last time we actually discussed it.
Yeah.
Total of 90 days.
Well, what are you hearing, Mr. Wainwright? I mean, are you dealing with this?
They think it's too long, but that's your call. We've already changed it twice.
So that,
And we have to re-advertise
Yeah.
every time.
Well, you know, if that's the case, I just say we leave it where it's at, and we just roll on. But I just wanted to clarify to the public that, once again, that it goes up for sale, it's advertised for sale for 90 days. They can put an offer in with the real estate company, and then those offers will go to the clerk's office, and they will be open kind of like we open bids.
Yes.
And then it'll be brought to the commission for the commission to pick
That's correct.
whoever it goes to.
The only comments that I have heard actually had to do with those earlier initial offers. Since the board discussed the 90 days and everything's in place now, I don't have any reason to believe that there are additional comments coming from others that were not a part of that initial
Right.
group that made offers. Those are the ones that I think were not really content with the way that.
The way it was done. Well, I just wanted to clarify, you know, I had a couple of people come to me about it, so I just want to put it back out there one more time and make sure we're clear on how we're doing it. And
That's 90 days.
As the way I stated it is the way we're doing it. Great. Did we vote on this yet?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Did we vote on this yet?
You just need consensus, or you need to vote?
I need to vote to surplus the property if we didn't do it already. I know we discussed it before, I just don't remember if we.
And we're
voted
going
to
at
surplus it. And then you need to decide what your minimum price is.
what the minimum price is. Any discussion on the minimum price? Gentlemen?
You've got an appraisal of 58,000.
And you're saying 10,000 acres, so
I'm saying it's pretty common right now, if you look, $10,000 an acre for 5 acre parcels, and those near 5 acres, this is a little over 5 and 6.3, I think. But it's up to you.
about 60,000.
About 63, 6.38.
All right, I'm good with that. How about everybody else?
Yes, sir. Good. Got my wheeler dealers down there to the left, I like it.
All right, what's the number?
63,000.
63,000.
Mr. Chairman, I offer a motion that we surplus this property and we offer for sale at $63,000.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Stapleton, and a second by Commissioner Land to offer a 6.3 acre parcel located on State Road
Can I
51.
make a point of clarification?
Yes, sir.
I want to ask the attorney. That we were going to sell it for 63 or the highest offer above 63?
Highest offer above 63.
Okay,
I was just gonna add the word minimum.
Minimum bid.
Minimum bid of
there
63,000.
you go.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. This time, Mr. Land.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, wait one more item. We got an additional agenda item. Discussion and consideration of county attorney request for satisfaction of lien under State of Florida Housing Initiative Partnership Program for Kevin and Patricia Mercer. Rebecca,
I'm sorry?
additional agenda item.
The additional agenda item is a ship lien. We got a request in from one of the title companies. They're refinancing the house and everything. The particular ship lien is actually expired by its own terms after 10 years. And some title companies that are out there, they don't like the language that is in there, and so out of abundance of precaution, they want to go ahead and get another release for that language. So that's what we're requesting for. This is not something we've done over and over and over again. Some companies ask for it and some companies don't. So, and I recommend that we go ahead and give it to them.
So
Any, discussion or have a motion?
I'll offer a motion to approve.
I'll second that.
I have a motion by Commissioner Land and a second by Commissioner Hale. All in favor? All opposed, same sign. Now,
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I'd like to take just a moment and ask Mr. Hanica to come up to the podium. I apologize for not asking you this, but I just saw him, he's been behind Eric there, but I just saw him, I wanted to have a brief conversation with him.
welcome, Mr. Hannick.
Good afternoon.
Mr. Hanica, I just wanted to have a conversation with you. I know you've been passionate about these casinos, and we've had some things happen in the last week or so, and I think we should document it and discuss it, and we feel like we still got issues there, and I didn't know if you might want to have some comment on this, what I'm saying, because you kind of led the charge.
Well, I did hear that there were some issues at two of them within the city, that there were robberies. And amazingly today, the city of Lake City totally banned. So now Lake City and Columbia County has totally banned all of them. What's gonna happen is, they're coming here. We're gonna become the capital of legal gambling. For some reason, the city just can't seem to follow your lead. I know they're worried about a lawsuit, but they have the same attorney here at the city as they do in Lake City. So I would hope that he may advise them that they don't have to worry so much about a lawsuit. And thank you, it is my passion, because I'm tired of seeing illegal operations here. And there's still about 8 of them in the city.
And I apologize for putting you on the spot, but I just, when I saw you there, I just
That's okay.
thought about it. Someone's gonna get hurt. I mean, I don't know how many times we can continue to state it. I mean, if we're getting robbed, and we've done it twice in a week span, I mean, I ask our partners in the city to please consider, I ask again to please consider doing something before someone gets hurt. I don't know really what else to say. I got respect for everyone in the city, I got respect for the council, but I just feel like that, I don't see anything good that can come from this moving forward. I've tried to look at it from all sides. I just continues, but anyway.
It's concerning, and you're right. Sooner or later, somebody's going to get hurt. And hopefully, not badly, but they just can't seem to. I've asked multiple times to get with you and get with the state's attorney and figure out how to take care of things. Obviously, you did. So it can be done. I'm just not sure why they can't seem to get past their words.
Well, I don't want to speak out of turn for them either. I mean, because this has happened, and maybe they're going to respond to this in their own way when they have a meeting. So I definitely don't want to say that, you know, this happened and they've done or said nothing. I feel like they would have some comments, but I just wanted to have a quick conversation this evening and just reiterate that, you know, if they would consider it, we sure would support it, or I would. I mean, I can't speak for this whole board, but I guess the board's kind of speak for itself, though. We've made our comments in the past. But I just.
Do you think this maybe takes care of itself, since Columbia County banned it, and the county here's banned it, and they all move into the city of Live Oak? I think they're pretty much gonna get, they'll have to deal with it.
I would hope so. I mean, the ordinance that they passed, and I got my hands slapped for the last time I spoke in front of the city, that they just found a way to make money out of it. They just increased the fees to where they can make money off of each one of these things, and that's not the right thing to do. So, I appreciate your support, and I'll certainly be at the next city council meeting, and it'll be on my agenda.
but I appreciate what you've done and what you've done in the county. So it shows that you really care about what's going on with our people.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson, very much.
I apologize for interrupting.
That's fine, thank you.
Chairman.
It's good to hear from you. Mr. Land, you had some comments?
Yes, sir, I got a couple things, that I've gained knowledge of this afternoon. I want to share it with the board and hopefully we can make a decision on one of these items. I don't know if y'all saw it or not, but an email came out from DOT about scrap and scoff today. I decided to dig a little deeper into that, and I called and I spoke to DOT, and that deadline is January 21st. I called and spoke to North Florida Professional Services, and they need some direction for us because they don't have any on what roads we want to submit again. And luckily for you guys, for the public, County Road 250 is now in the program. That funding will not, we won't see any funding until probably 2025, 2026, but the first half, that 51 to 193rd, DOT did approve that request.
Well,
Finally. They did that back in the fall. I don't know how we missed that, but apparently it's in their portal, it's on their queue. And the lady was very educating for me. They take our number that we send it, but then they have their own little schematic program, their research, their traffic crashes, their data-driven schematics that they pull, that they look at, and then internally they evaluate every request throughout the entire district. You know, the pie's only so big, so we get our piece, but I spoke to North Florida Professional Services. He hasn't done any work. He needs to update the cost because costs have increased, just like on everything. But to refresh y'all's memory, 184th was number 1 on the list. Number 2 was County Road 137. From, I believe, from 90 to 136. Yep, all the way. And then number 3 was DOT. Number 3 was County Road 250. And then number 4, honorable mention, was 49, the rest of 49. The lady assured me that we did not need to resubmit that front half of 250. She recommended submitting the second half, not that it might be 5 years before it got funding too. But to try to complete that project, she recommended, continuing to do that. But the deadline's January 21st for scrap and scoff. And I think we need to.
So do we add any more roads to that at this time, or?
Well, what we need to do, discuss as a board, is if the board wants to stay with we gotta add a road. Do y'all wanna add the rest of 250, or is there another road? It is in my district, but if what the board wants to do, either add the rest of 250, or is there another road somewhere else that is more important than the last half of 250? That needs to be discussed, and then we need to discuss the order of the roads that we choose, or that we select.
Mr. Harris, 49, do we have the funding for the rest of that road, or is it, there's a piece of it that's left out?
No, when I saw that email, my thought was to come back on your next agenda and give you all the information on these things and see if I can get them to agree or disagree on some dates on some of this. And then it would give you time to think about another road as well. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head right now. I mean, we've got roads that are horrible everywhere, so.
Well, my concern was waiting until the next meeting and then going through the holidays meaning Christmas and New Year's, and then if we don't select, I'm sure North Florida will be somewhat short-staffed through the holidays. We all are, everywhere. So I would like for us to try to get ahead of it if we can, so that we give them ample time to submit very thorough applications on our behalf. But we can.
You've got these, I don't know what other road. Let me share something else with you. I got a call today as well from Hamilton County. And I'm gonna be talking to DOT about this, but I had a call from Hamilton County today, the county administrator up there. Their board had some conversation about petitioning DOT to 4-lane 129 from I-10 to I-75. He wanted my thoughts on it. I said, well, you know, I'll talk to the commissioners about it. My first thought, though, and I shared with him, is if it would be competing with scrap and stop projects, it might not be that appealing to us, because that is not a county road, and the state's got that responsibility. Would it be nice to have it 4-laned? You can bet. I mean, when there are events up there at the park, it'd be really nice, but I need to get the answer to the question of whether or not that type of application would be competing with our scrap and stop programs. We've got enough competition now that we didn't have 10 years ago with scrap and stop funding. Years ago, we got to turn in more projects, and they got funded, but then there was a change, and in that program, they began allowing municipalities to make application for projects every year, but they didn't increase the funding. So the pie got sliced up a great deal more, and it slowed down our projects. And then there's the annual contest in the legislative session over how much funding is going to be put in. At one time, I was told that, in this case, TRIP projects is what that would be called, that program, did compete with our funding for our other projects. I guess they looked at the lump sum that they were offering for improvements in any given county. So that's my first question. Would that type of project compete with what we're doing with scrap and stuff? But otherwise, I can't tell you off the top of my head what I think the next road needs to be.
I can, sir, 136. I got a hold
Talking
of
about the balance of 136. Well, 136 is a project that we had applied for. We believed that it met all the conditions. They came up with, rather than the funding of the project, they came up with a dollar amount. And we went out there and did with that dollar amount what we could, so it came up way short of what it needed to be.
I mean, I realized too, we run into a problem coming into the city with their utilities, and can't really fix that part.
Well, I think the board at that time had indicated that if we had to, we'd go up to city limits and stop until the city would go in there and remove and repair or replace all of their utilities. That's where the problem is. I mean, that section of Duval has probably 50 holes that have been cut out and patched because of the utilities. And I don't think anyone but Commissioner Fleming, I don't remember if there's anyone else. Were you in that workshop with us in the city?
No, sir, I don't think there was on that one.
Well, in that meeting, we had a conversation about 136 and Duval and repaving that. And the board made it very clear at that time that we weren't going to come into the city limits or request funding for that until they replaced the utilities, because there was no need to put brand new asphalt down and have them out there the next day cutting it back up. At that time, I'm going on memory, but it seems to me that we were told by the city manager at the time that they had the funding to make that happen, to get those improvements done. Is that your recollection, Commissioner Fleming? But the replacement has never occurred. So we have enough need that exists from the city limit out to where the reconstruction ended, and we could turn that project in again if you want.
I mean, I'm gonna be respectful for everyone here. We're all Suwannee County. I'm not, you know, we have district lines, but I mean, it's for the wellness of everyone. But I'm just, we're talking about roads, and I'm just putting my roads out there. I mean, 137, 49's both hazardous. 136 is right in there on the trail.
The County Road 250, you said they approved it to where?
193rd, that's Clay Land, that's the front half.
That's the worst half, is it not?
That is the worst half.
They're gonna widen that road, correct? I mean,
We hope, yeah, that, the plan going forward, and I didn't have this conversation today, so I may misspeak a little bit, but the plan going forward is to make sure that, I wanna say that they're going to, there won't be any more 8-foot lanes, it'll be 10-footers, I believe. Is that right, Mr.? Or no?
I'm hoping they're like 11-foot lanes and maybe even put
Maybe.
the wide shoulders on them, I don't know.
They're not doing what they did on Hughes anymore, I know that.
Badge it in. Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
just in this conversation, I mean, I've been talking with DOT on a few different things as well, trying to get some updates, and you saying possibly 2025.
That's what.
Probably, I hate to be with bad news, but it's probably gonna be more than that, because some of the roads I worked in the beginning, before they got approved in 2020 or 2019, they said would be done in 2023, they've already pushed off to 2025, if you look at that thing that got sent to us. But the other thing that scares me is, like we're talking about, is the funding, because when they approved some of those roads that like Mitchell Road, out here, 76th Street, obviously, material was cheaper, salaries were cheaper, fuel was cheaper, and they've already expressed to me some concerns that we don't uphold their obligation to us on the prices that are there to do that. So I think there's a lot of things to consider here, talking about on this. I just don't know how far the money's gonna go, but I agree we need to turn them in and make some decisions. But one other thing on the heels of that, it was brought to my attention from several people in the community, and I want to work with the city on this if I can. It's something that I'll let you guys know about it. But you probably heard the same thing. Our school zones over here are in dire need of some traffic work as far as moving cars and students and parents in and out, school buses. I don't know what that looks like, but I specifically remember one of the classes we went to over at DOT. There's maybe some separate funding for school zones and things like that I want to maybe dive into and see if we can acquire some. Just put it on y'all's radar too. That's something.
Well, I can say that in the past, we've experienced the issue with the increases in cost, the inflation, even before now. And it has made it impossible to complete projects. And then you end up with, 136 is a classic example. We thought the project would get funded, and we ended up with a small piece of road. And that could very easily happen going forward. I think you just have to be cautiously optimistic when it comes to these approvals now, because the numbers are changing every day on costs.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I'm in agreement with Commissioner Land. I think time is of the essence, but I would say this, I mean, if you're willing, I would like to have a discussion at this next meeting, and I just think there's a whole lot of paperwork we need to have in front of us and make a decision, and it gets delivered to them that next day, Commissioner Land, if that works for you. I think it's a long discussion for it to be fair for everyone, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, the application process has been open for several months now, and I didn't realize that, but I didn't want to put North Florida Professional Services behind the 8 ball and then just kind of hurry up and rush and throw something against the wall, because they're gonna go through the holidays and experience some outages on personnel, away from the office, and throw not a very good application at DOT is the reason I wanted to talk about it tonight. But if the board's not prepared to make a decision, I'm fine. I want to give everybody ample time, so if we need to wait, that's fine.
I'm just saying, I mean, I agree with what you're saying, but what I'm saying is we have to make a decision and come to an agreement on the roads, on that list and on the order.
That's right.
And I don't know if that's fair for every citizen of Suwannee County for us to do it right this second, I guess is what I'm saying without.
I'll share my thoughts with you on it, and we can still wait, that's fine. Obviously, I'd like to see 250 get the second half get finished. I know that it probably won't get picked right behind the first half getting picked, so it could be a few years, but I'm okay moving 250 down to number 4. Since I did get an award or got a commitment from DOT, I'm okay moving down, to number 4 spot and giving up my number 3 spot that I had. Not that I'm entitled to it by no means. So I'm good with that, but I would like to see that second half. I mean, we got a new bridge out there, and it's traffic counts like I think 1,900 cars a day. Anyway, folks of the village and the all people they employ and the visitors they experience, we'd love to see that end finished before the front end, but if we need to wait, we can wait. Those are just my thoughts.
What's the board's pleasure here? We're gonna wait, or we're going to decide tonight?
It's up to the board, it's up, Mr. Hale, you have any input?
Well, well,
Go ahead,
my
Mr.
thought is that we kind of hashed this around sometime before. And, I have to show some favoritism for 250, you know. Because I travel that road every day. I travel daily, and, a couple of weeks ago when I came back from Destin, I came back way through Durham Park. The bridge is nice. It would be nice if that second part would be also included. It's a well-traveled road. I have to support that also.
I think the question is what order we gonna put them in this time, really.
Well, can we get a list? And
Well, we still got 184, 137, County Road 49. We need to get the details on that, what their plans really are. And I'm gonna be honest with you, if you read all of that email, and I'm not suggesting any of you did not read it, did you pick up on the highlighted portion about all of these additional safety requirements now with these markers, the raised pavement markers and all this other stuff? That's just gonna increase the cost. I've got serious concerns with taking the same amount of money and trying to go out and do the roads when you're incurring greater per mile expense by adding all these safety markings and everything else that they're now requiring. So I would say it's 184th, 137, County Road 49. If we're gonna make the balance of 250 number 4, then we still go in with County Road 136, the balance, and just add it to the list, unless y'all wanna rearrange it. Because that balance still, just like the balance of 49, it has to be done. So, I mean, we could do that if you wanted to. Do the balance of 250 and add 136 to it, or what's your pleasure? Y'all tell me and I'll contact them, get it all.
I'm good with that.
I can have-
But I'm good with that.
I can have County Road 137 number 1 and 49 number 2, I would get.
I don't think so. That ain't
I don't
gonna
have many roads in here right now, so I'm not gonna.
Pig for Christmas.
I said cautiously optimistic, not wildly optimistic.
Hey, gotta swing for the fences.
I hear you. So are we good with that, everybody, what Mr. Harris just?
I'm fine with that, yes, sir.
Mr. Stillman, you good with that? I think the last time we had a discussion, you were sitting in the chairman's seat and couldn't really make any motion, but.
I'm still over here, and I'm gonna concede to the chairman and just be happy with it.
So,
Okay, so we're gonna go back with 184th, then County Road 137, the balance of 49, the balance of 250, and we're gonna add the balance of 136.
Fine with that.
And we'll turn them all in and see what happens.
I'm good with that as long as the next road after that is my opinion. Yeah.
Well, that'll be,
Throw one in there.
by that time, that'll be the 10-year.
I probably won't even be here by then, by the time we get to that,
I
but.
tell you, it's so sad. We have these conversations, the public gets to watch these on YouTube or something, wherever they watch them on, and they get excited. And then you take, like Commissioner Hill was talking about, it's in a 5-year plan and it ends up, in some cases, and it's no fault of DOT. I know how hard they work. The legislature decides how much money goes into that pot. So, you know, they do their part, everyone else does. It goes into a 5-year transportation improvement plan that sometimes rolls on out.
Yeah, it turns into
Farther, much farther.
And again, like you said,
Yeah.
I'm not throwing off on DOT, they've been great to work with, but it's no fault of their own, it's legislation, but the funding and lack of sometimes, but I do feel like, and that's why I like for all of us to go over there and speak our mind, because I don't want us to be forgotten over in Tallahassee. These smaller towns and counties seem to be forgotten sometimes, and it's the You gotta keep marking, keep making noise over there, so.
Yeah.
All right, if we're good with that, we'll move on.
I got one more thing I wanted to ask Mr. Harris. I've gotten at least 5 different people inquired, and if you can update myself, because I don't know the answer, as well as the public, for you two. What are we doing as the supervisor of the elections office? People are driving by and calling me and saying, what are y'all making that bigger? What are you doing over there?
They actually requested a golden atrium out front.
Really?
On those
Are you paying for that?
domes. It was in your budget. No, actually, what we're trying to do is make it safer, more handicap friendly. What we're gonna do, the plans will be to raise that floor as soon as you step in the door, so we'll raise the doors. We'll raise the outside and do a ramp back to the south. That'll tie in ultimately to the sidewalk. Commissioner Stapleton had been over there, I think he shared he had encountered someone struggling to get in the door.
Yeah, he was at the tax collector. I'm talking
Tax collector, he's talking about supervisor.
supervisor elections.
Oh, supervisor, okay, I misunderstood. What are we doing at supervisor elections?
Yeah.
I believe she's gonna, I think I mentioned it to you guys, that she was gonna have some flooring redone inside, maybe some carpet replaced or
Looks
something.
like we're digging up in the flower beds, so I don't know what's.
I didn't see that.
I haven't heard a word about it. If they're digging up the flower beds, there may be a leak out there, I don't have any idea. I can find out.
It's on the sheriff's side.
Yeah.
They have a leak and mold issue,
Okay.
so that is what they're dealing with like this.
All right. Leak and mold issue. All right. Public.
All right.
Public fix.
Very good.
Oh, was that back there by the old car wash? Okay, I saw that.
I have Miss Hillary Cannon from the Chamber of Commerce. She wanted to speak about something tonight. Welcome, Miss Hillary.
Thanks. Good evening.
Ethan.
I just wanted to take this time to publicly acknowledge the help that the county provided to us and helped us with Christmas on the Square this past weekend. It was a great event, but it could not have gone as smoothly or had been as successful as it was had it not been for several departments within the county. So I want to thank Parks and Rec. They were there from Thursday on. Suwannee County Fire Rescue was there with us. Of course, we couldn't have done what we did without the TDC and the Economic Development Office. The Sheriff's Department was there. Who am I leaving out? Cookie Cook with the electrical, he helped us with that a lot all weekend. Of course, Commissioner Stapleton was out there personally on Friday night. Friday night was a big undertaking with the cleanup that night, so we greatly appreciate that. I think it went faster than I've seen it go in the last couple of years. So I just wanted to say thank y'all.
That was the road department, our trucks, our dump trucks, and our loader from the county assisted in removing that snow is what she's referring to as far as the slides.
30 tons in, I think, an hour and a half maybe. So I just wanted to tell y'all thank you. We appreciate it. It was a great event, and we couldn't have done it without y'all. So just want to say thanks.
Thanks,
Thanks, ma'am.
thank you so much.
And you survived.
I did.
Mr. Chairman, I just want I was down there for the lighting of the tree and all, I just want to say you guys did a great job as always, but I was a little disappointed I didn't see more of my commissioners down there doing the 5K.
Did you run?
I ran back to the truck. But no, it was good, thank you guys.
Mr. Kerry Walden.
Thank you, Chairman and gentlemen. It's been a while since I've been by to visit with you, and I thought it'd be a good opportunity to come and just give you an update on things like the all things health department, and talk a little bit about COVID and some other things. Our first case of COVID was in March 26th of 2020, and to date we've had 9,280 cases. Good news in monitoring and looking at the data over the last month and a half, we have been averaging only 2 positive cases a day, which is significant from where we were back in March of 2020, even significant from where we were in August of 2021. As a matter of fact, today, from yesterday's caseload, we had 0 positive cases. So when you look at a monthly average, we've been maintaining around 2 cases a day. Our booster clinics are going strong. We're averaging about 150 folks coming out to the health department to get their booster shots. We booster on Tuesdays and Thursdays if you would like a booster shot. And you've got to be at least 6 months since you've had your last dose. And call us up, get on the appointment schedule, and we'll take care of you. And it's very gratifying when we mention folks are calling and say, if you want it sooner than a Tuesday or Thursday, we've got other places in town that can accommodate you. And they're like, nope, we got our shots out there at the health department. We want to come back to the health department because y'all took good care of us. So that's a testament to our staff that we have out there. What we are seeing is not many kids 5 to 11 years of age getting the vaccination. We had some in today, but, and we can offer the Pfizer vaccine for those kids that are 5 and up, but there haven't been too many takers on that at this point. So we do make it available and be happy to vaccinate if they so choose. We are seeing the positive cases in the school kids to drop significantly. For a while there, we were spiking in the school system, but today, it's probably not even once a week do I see a school-age kid coming across with a positive case. So that's real encouraging in what's happening in our community. The Omicron that everybody is talking about is a new variant. There is not a lot of information available yet. They are studying it. As of today, I looked at the data today, we have not had any reported cases in Florida yet. The state north of us, Georgia, has claimed some cases. I don't have the exact number, but so far we've not seen that variant here in the state of Florida. We are still continuing to provide and offer COVID testing at the Coliseum through a private entity called NOMI. They're there Monday through Saturday. There will be for the holiday schedule coming up for Christmas and New Year's, Friday and Saturday, where they won't be testing, but that's still available from 9 to 6. You can have a rapid or you can do a PCR. And in my discussions with them, they're not seeing a whole lot of traffic come through there as well. So the interest in testing has dropped. Our vaccination rates are holding pretty strong in our 65 and older group. They're roughly around the 76% mark. If you look at our overall vaccination rate in Suwannee County, they count it by those who were eligible, so 5 and up, and we are coming in at about 39%. But that's because you've got a population that's 5 years to 18 that's being counted in that. But I'm still encouraged by the number of folks that are getting vaccinated and where we are and our efforts with our team. It's hard to imagine that we've been doing this since March of 2020. And here we are about to enter 2021, and so we continue to stay strong and fight it, and I've got a resilient team, and we just try to keep plugging away at it. But the biggest encouraging news is the fact that we're at our daily case average or positive cases has dropped significantly. And we continue to monitor for the new variant, and I'll keep you abreast of that when we learn more information about it. The other item I'd just like to bring you up to date on, in case you begin to get phone calls or folks that have concerns, is our environmental health department is experiencing some personnel transition to the point where our supervisor has retired. And we've advertised the position and had no applicants. Then we've had an environmental scientist 2 inspector leave for the private sector, and no applicants have filed. And then we've had a 3rd environmental specialist 1 leave for the private sector. So I go from 4 inspectors to where I've got 3 inspectors and 1 left. And we found out late yesterday evening that they're about to interview for a position that will take him back to his home county. So I'm just giving you a heads up that we're back from where we're back from where I started when I first took this job, and we are working with our counties around us. We're advertising. We're just finding there's not much interest in people applying for jobs, and it's not just Suwannee County. In talking to my colleagues, they're fighting it too. If someone doesn't get pulled away or robbed away to another county, you get someone fresh out of college, because there are some state requirements they have to meet. You get them trained. Just as soon as you get them trained, these larger counties snap them up. Or in this case, we've got 2 going to private sector work where salaries are significantly higher. Benefits may not be as good, but the salaries are significantly higher. They're younger kids, and Sometimes it's hard to attract folks to small rural counties. But I wanted to give you a heads up that there's an opportunity that we're working through. I'll keep you informed as we go along, and try our best to make sure that our department responds as efficiently and effectively as we possibly can. But we may see some lag time in getting things done in trying to recruit and hire. And there's a learning curve. If you're freshly new out of school and you're coming in as an environmental scientist, you have to work a period of time before you can even take a state test to get your septic tank certification. So it's always a fun time in environmental health. And I just wanted to make y'all aware in case the phones start ringing that I can't get my permit, I don't know what they're doing. But we're struggling with trying to maintain staff and keep staff. So I just wanted to make you aware of that. And I'll be glad to answer any questions on anything you might have that's related to the health department.
Thank you, Mr. Walton. Anybody any questions?
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, Mr.
Mr. Alderman, with that being said, are you available to do those field inspections until we get a person?
I would love to do it, but guess what? I do not have the science background that the state requires. And I can hire off the street today people that have the talent, the knowledge, the ability, but because if they do not meet certain state requirements, I can't hire.
Mr. Chairman, so just on the heels of that, and this is just a question, I think we ran into this one time before where you get developed behind with some in-field inspections, and I think you got some folks from Tallahassee to come help you or something. Is that everyone's shorthanded and can't do that now?
Well, we got some help from at the state level.
Okay. Not there.
I'll say this delicately. Contractors told me that they would be very patient if I did not ask them people back in Suwannee
I
County.
understand, I heard the same thing.
And now we're dealing with another issue, not an issue, but the state legislature moved the OSCDS, the on-site sewage treatment disposal system, into DEP, where we're supposed to transition over a 5-year period where we give DEP that program. Well, DEP turned around and contracted back with DOH as they work through this transition. So right now, environmental health programs are DOH as well as EPD. So a lot of the folks in the OSCDS that we dealt with in previous years are now DEP staff, DEP employees. And I'll be on a call tomorrow with my colleagues in the North Central region. And this is an item we're gonna have discussions, because it's not only Suwannee County and Lafayette County that's having these issues, it's statewide, it's a statewide issue. And, great job, great opportunity, but it's also a good stepping stone. You come out and you get the knowledge, you become certified, and these private soil companies, these private engineering and geology firms will reach out to you and they'll hire you away.
So are we gonna have anybody to go out and inspect septic tanks right now?
We have staff currently, yes, and we will be working and to ensure that we have somebody to inspect, because we have to.
No.
I mean, it's absolutely, I've already been having discussions with neighboring counties to borrow their staff, and get their staff to come in and help. It's just disheartening that you go through and try to find applicants and offer opportunities, and nobody's taking them, they're not applying.
And obviously, I'm assuming it's the pay that pulls away. I hear you saying it's a stepping stone,
It's a career move.
I got you.
And it's a larger issue at the state level that we are working on, because I'm on a statewide program council that we've begun to address this and talk about this, and there are things that need to be changed. Some ways that we can make it much easier for us at the local level, but yet accomplish what the state wants to do. So we're having those discussions, but that's not going to be a quick fix. But the folks at the state level are interested in having these conversations, so we're encouraged. But I didn't want you to be blindsided, so I wanted to come tell you.
Thank you, Mr. Walden.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. All right, at this time, we'll get to public concerns and comments. Mr. Pope?
What is that horror story? I'm back. Now, just a couple of things. The first thing we can handle this real quick. Where do we stand on the workshop dealing with the wage compression issue?
We're not gonna try to schedule that until these holidays are over. There's no need to.
Because I was thinking, you know, y'all already had all the data.
We don't have all the data.
Okay.
We've got all the data on who is being paid how much, but we've got to probably break this up into groups and try to put some proposals together, come in and figure out. I mean, there are some simple ways that I've heard of to try to address this. Even some commissioners have some opinions on it, what might simplify it, but we need to have that conversation in a workshop.
Really, because, I'm telling you, might be gonna be faced with an employee short equating what you experienced before. Just saying. The other thing that I have is, a couple of years ago, as part of the glorious campus, county campus idea, the county purchased 120 acres off of 112. With the idea at that time being eventually Public Works relocating out there. But in the short term, there were, Mr. Harris, met with him and prior to the purchase, and one of the things he talked about is there's an opportunity that the county could save approximately $250,000 a year in current transportation costs. Well, it's a little higher now because of the increase in fuel and everything else that's going up. And they would use that site to store some of the lime rock that we're getting from the mine. They wouldn't have to travel as far to get to it for some of the other projects that we have in the county. So far, and this, like I said, it's been 2 years, we've lost $500,000 because nothing has been done. Part of the property has been cleared. But it's still not stopping there. They're coming all the way into town, going to the airport and dumping out there. And talking with Mr. Harris, he says, he can't do it all by himself. It takes this board to take some action. So board, let's take some action. Tell him to stop and start dumping the damn stuff out there. I mean, to me, that's a quick solution, quick and easy. That it was purchased for that purpose, or one of the reasons, not solely for that. Let's start realizing some savings. Instead of having the lime rock trucks driving all the way through town, going to the airport and dumping, stop out there on 112, store it out there. You don't have a height issue out there that I know of. There ain't no airplanes flying out there. You just keep it at the airport where it's going down, from my understanding anyway. When it gets so high, FAA comes in and says, you gotta knock it down. Why don't we just quit storing out here and put it on 112? That's what you spent all that money for buying the property.
I thought we were putting some rock out there.
We discussed it one time, I know.
Well, it was part of it's been 7 or 8 years worth of conversation probably. And it was a part of the earlier conversation of a campus, a property big enough to put county buildings on it in the future. And I mean, a long-range plan. But one of those proposals was also to move Public Works out there and realize the savings and the turnaround time with trucks and fuel and manpower. But more recently, there was a decision to not do anything with that property right now. And if the board elects to not ever do anything with that piece of property, then we could consider finding another piece of property, smaller, if the board isn't going to do any plan to set that aside for availability for future county buildings. So you can sell the property, you can buy a smaller piece of property, you can do anything that you wanna do. But I told Mr. Hancock it's a policy decision, it's not a Randy decision. So it's really up to the board to decide what you wanna do with it.
I'll, if I can, Mr. Chair, but just because I've been working with Mr. Norris back there, I was looking and pointing at him, I mean, again, inventory of property, I mentioned this to Mr. Hancock too. I don't know if it's something that would be, you know, we have companies contact us all the time wanting X number of properties and this and that, and of course, there's things that they need with that, you know, maybe get to the interstate or rail or something, some don't. So, yeah, I mean, I don't want us to sit on it forever, but at least I want him to be aware that it's there if there is some type of business or something.
Why can't we use it in the meantime? If you decide to sell it, move it.
Can I speak?
Go ahead, Mr. Cole.
Mr. Hancock, I'm in the same position that I was in Bloody Workshops. I'm not comfortable doing anything on 112th. If we wanna store rock or we wanna store material, let's go to the landfill where those surrounding landowners are already used to that amount of truck traffic. I don't wanna displace any of those residents, because there's a lot of residential units, residential homes all around 112th. I'm not displacing and putting those kids in those residential areas at the risk of increased truck traffic flying up and down 112 to our rock pile. We got a rock pile right down there. We can make a rock pile where they're already used to truck traffic coming in and out of the landfill. That's further south, that's more centrally located, so your 500,000 might be 600,000 if we move it down there. But I'm not for storing material or doing anything on 112th. If it was up to me, we can do economic development or we can sell it. That's just me, that's my position, I'm just one of 5. But if you want to realize real savings on logistics, move it further south to the landfill, do it there. There's less surrounding landowners, there's less residential homes. You're not going to displace all those residences that live on 112, the new dump truck and truck traffic up and down that road. That's just me, I'm one of 5.
Okay, let's make this simple. We would have lost $500,000 more that we could have earned. That's gone. Sell the property. It's not going to be used for economic development for the same reason Mr. Land just mentioned. There's too many people. NIMBYism will kill it.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I'll speak, Mr. Hancock. I was one of the supporters of buying that property out there. And I will say this in defense of the thought process. Myself and Commissioner Hale and Commissioner Fleming was here, but as times change, boards change. When boards change, positions change, thought processes change, new ideas come that are better. Sometimes they're worse, sometimes they're better. At that point in time, you have to listen to all of them, be respectful of all of them. If I have a board that's not supportive of doing anything out there, a new board, then I'm not gonna jump up and down and go sideways to try to make something happen. But I will say this in defense of that property. I understand what you're saying and that we could have saved money by have already done that. But at the end of the day, when I go home, that was a good investment on that property because we sell it today and it will make money. So I will say that in defense of me supporting that project to buy that property.
Yep.
And a good amount of money. So you can go look at what it sold for and what it was still for today and get an appraisal. So at the end of the time, I just want to speak up on my behalf that it's not as bad as I feel like you're making it look that we made a bad decision as a board.
You just didn't use it for what you purchased it for then. It used to work then. But you bought it with tax dollars. And now you're sitting up here telling taxpayers, you don't know what you're going to do with it. You're going to sit on it? You're going to use it try to use it for economic development? What are you going to do? Y'all appropriate monies every year in the budget for projects that don't get done for 5 years or more. You're sounding like the state government now in DOT. It's getting to the point where you need to wake up. You're using tax dollars to do these things, and you don't do anything. Stop doing that. I've been doing this, coming up here, and I'm not the 6th commissioner, as some will allude to. But I've been doing this since the mid-90s. I've seen boards come and go.
But
The one thing that's consistent, one thing that appears to be consistent is they all like to spend money. That's it. I mean,
I
I
was just
just,
gonna say on the heels of what Commissioner Stapleton said, I mean, and I agree with your comments, I think the board, even the previous board, as you and I discussed before, we had some ideas of a campus of some sorts, and maybe that's where we thought that should be at some point in time, but like the Commissioner said, you get new ideas on here, Mr. White, Mr. Land, you know, we start discussing things and looking at it in a different light, and it changes our position on it. I mean, it has mine, I mean, and definitely that's why we put the brakes on it, if you will. And I agree, if we're not gonna do something with it, then let's make a decision on what we are gonna do or whatever, but I don't think it was malicious intent, so I'm just trying to prove.
no, I'm not saying it was malicious, it's just,
Yeah.
you know, the taxpayers get fed up.
Sure.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
could I get your thoughts on that piece of property?
Sell it.
Mr. Chairman, I offer motion to sell the property on 112.
Second.
I have a motion on the table by Commissioner Stapleton and a
We got a-
Oh,
I'm sorry, Mr. Pravat.
I say we get an appraisal.
Let's take it the first step. The first step, if you wanna sell it, is to surplus it. If you decide that you don't, it's not gonna be serving a county purpose, that's what you need to do is first step, surplus it so that it can be sold, go get the appraisal and move forward from there.
Mr. Chairman, I offer a motion that we surplus the property on 112th Street.
Second.
I have a motion and a second, a motion by Commissioner Stapleton, a second by Commissioner Land to put the property on 100, what road is it? On 112, the surplus. I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I respect, I just, sitting back, observing, you taking one step, backing up 2 steps. And boards come and go. One board approved one thing, as Commissioner Stapleton said, another board come in and then see the mission or the vision that's in place or that was in place. I would have loved to have saw to where line rod, fuel, county municipality, buildings, they don't make them no dirty. At some point in time, they have to make a decision, a great and a good decision. I hate to see it sold, I'm not in favor of it. I mean, surplus, I'm not in favor. And I probably won't be in favor forever. But I'll say this, yeah, I have some concern. The trucks coming into town, they save money in that location. But at the same time, what if one of the county trucks hits somebody? We're talking about kids in that community. What about individuals in the school zone that these trucks are running through? It's a greater liability, as far as I'm concerned. Could be somebody's grandmother. There's a whole lot of stuff, there's a whole lot of issues. But one thing about it, there's a lot of solutions. Let me back. There's a lot of problems, there's always a solution. I don't think the solution will be to surplus the property at this time. The price that we pay for the property, it hasn't decreased. There's still money out there. Yeah, it may be $1 million, $500,000 that we have lost, but at the same time, the property's still there.
Yeah. Let's correct something here, and I'm getting a call. County hasn't lost. It's unrealized. Don't use the word lost, because that goes out. People on YouTube will see that, and all they lock in is the word lost. It's unrealized.
Unrealized savings.
Yes.
Right. Okay, I just want to clarify that.
Now, Mr. Chairman, I want to finish.
Okay, go ahead.
As I said, I'm not in favor of the surplus. I'm not in favor of it being sold. But I think we worked hard to get to that point. And I don't want to back up and punt no anymore. I've been in this county all my life, and to revert instead of increasing, let's don't revert. Let's don't back up, start all over again. I think this man worked hard. I rode out with him and we looked, I thought it was a great idea. And, you know, I gotta respect, Commissioner Lamb said about, you know, children and people, that there's a greater risk of those dump trucks. With the way the traffic is in the city of Idaho, we'll get backed up. Now, Gold Kiss Boulevard is a heavily traffic road, a lot of traffic on that road. And I see these trucks. I see these trucks in the mornings, and during the day. And all on Walker Avenue going south. I think it's a greater risk, these trucks coming in and out the city line. And it was much better stop in a super area than in a congested area. Mr. Chairman, I got a lot of stuff that I can say, but I'm just going to leave it there.
Thank you, sir.
That's fine.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Just a brief comment. That property actually was not the original property that we even attempted to look at. It's been so many years that there were lots of properties that we looked at, and I talked to other commissioners about through the years. And biggest problem at the time, quite frankly, was that we couldn't find willing sellers in the locations that we were looking. But the first location we were looking was actually a property south of the city limits that fronted on 129. That's what we were looking at. And it just didn't work out for years, and we just kept looking all over the place. But anyway, I just want to share that with you. There were lots of different properties that we looked at the time.
Mr. Chair, I have another comment before we move forward with the vote.
So, I got one after you, please.
I just want to publicly apologize to Commissioner Fleming because I asked your thoughts and I was turned this way, and I owe you respect to ask your thoughts.
Thank you, sir.
And I apologize for that. That was my fault, 100%. I will say this to kind of, I want to respond to Commissioner Fleming and some of his thoughts. Because we were on the same page when it was purchased. We were, as a board. And I respect that. I will say after the fact, and as we've moved forward and had discussions further into time, that I did get feedback from some residents out there that had concerns about developing that. So I will say this to you publicly, that is some of my thoughts after the fact, after we had discussions and bought the property, that has happened in the meantime to make me feel like that maybe we should sell this and go look for something more suitable. And I just want to explain that too.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, on the heels of that, I was just gonna ask Commissioner Fleming, I personally haven't spoken to any of those folks, maybe you guys have, but I've heard the discussion through you guys here of the residents out there, and, you know, that's why I'm like most of you guys, I don't think we should be doing anything out as far as big trucks and things of that nature, but, would it be something, Mr. Fleming, if, you know, we surplus this out on the heels of that, if we, as a board, continue to look for something, like you said, down in that area, and we could stockpile some of this stuff, whether it be fuel or something like that? I mean, is there a happy medium there we can all work on? Because I agree with you. I mean, if we can cut down on some of that, to Mr. Boo's point, we save some money there, a possible liability, someone getting hurt, et cetera. So, I mean, I'm open for anything. Just, I didn't want you to feel shut out after I heard your comments.
I understand, but I'm understanding, very understanding, and I like to listen, and I have so much caution, you know, in this little head, big head, whatever, but I also like to be agreeable to where everybody's happy. You know, I have a happy medium, everybody is happy. I've heard comments from individuals in this county that And I shared with him what we had out there. They was excited about the possibility of trucks not coming through town. So you got an influx of individuals, maybe we need to have a discussion, maybe we need to have a workshop over it. Maybe, and get individuals to come in, and this is our county. I just wanna do what's best for our county, and for our individuals, our residents in this county. Then to just, slam the door, and that's it. I open it back up again, dirty ain't going nowhere. Somebody wait on that property out there, so we can surface.
Well, on what we're talking about, when I mentioned economic, I know Mr. Norris gets folks coming to him all the time looking for housing, places to build homes and houses, and you guys say it's a very residential area out there. I mean, something like that may fit the picture better than, say, a manufacturing facility or something like that.
Well, I'm agreeable, and, I don't, cause no havoc or distraction to this board that I ever have. I would not. But if whatever vote chooses, if it's a 4-1 vote, I'm fine, I'm good. But I thought it was just a good project, and it was, our hand was on it as and one day I can look out and say, this is what we do.
Well, I don't disagree with you, Mr. Fleming, I respect your opinion on that, but I just think it's a great piece of land, it was bought at a great price. It's just the wrong place. That's my opinion on it.
I would ask this, I think, and I don't know if maybe I should include it in a motion. I would like to see, I would support what I said, but I would like to see a line item with that money put in, and I wouldn't like to just see it go back in the general fund. I would like there to be a continual vision that Mr. Fleming has, and that we all do, that when that right piece comes along, or if we see something in the future, I just don't want it lost. When we sell it, it's gonna make money. That money made money. We can take it, line item it, and use it for what the vision of the board is moving forward, instead of it just getting commingled with something different. And I think that would help Commissioner Fleming feel better about it if we move forward. I'm just speculating, but I would, do I need to include that in my motion?
Please.
Before you get to that, may I make something? From listening to all this discussion, solution is right in front of you. If it's possible, we can solve the traffic issue. You can still sell the property and do just like Commissioner Stapleton suggested. Put it in the budget as a line item for later use of property. And Mr. Land's suggestion, we can still realize some savings in the transportation costs, use the landfill. If you do that, you solve the problem. 112 gets sold. The trucks don't come through town anymore, and the taxpayers save transportation costs. Now, I'll have a decision. Thank you.
Mr. Stapleton, you want to verify that motion, please?
Mr. Chairman, I offer a motion that we surplus the property on 112, followed by an appraisal with that, and also I'd like to include in that motion that requests that the funds, if and when it sells, be placed in a line item onto itself.
For real estate purchase or
For future,
county side? I mean, where are we gonna line item it at? Are we gonna be specific, or are we just gonna be general?
I don't feel like it really needs to be really specific, because it can be changed by any board at any time.
That's
I mean,
correct.
Trust me,
I'd say
it
just,
can be changed at any time.
just put it where we can all watch it and see it.
We can
When we
identify
touch it,
it.
it's at least identified. That's,
Yeah.
I think that's Mr. Stapleton's intent, I
Yeah.
think.
Okay, I'm good with that.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Stapleton to surplus, appraisal and surplus the land on 112, with the stipulation that the funds received from that sale be put in a separate line item. I have a second by Commissioner Land. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All sign. 4-1. Thank you, gentlemen. Anybody else with any public concern? Name and address for the record.
Moses Slipper, 14581, 102nd Path, Live Oak. I got a couple things here. Coming in on the end of that, I don't know they're gonna be that pertinent. When, they were talking about the communications tower, I'm sure we've all seen these, camouflage types. It may be too late to even put that on the attempt to, but I've been in more condensed areas in my life, and those towers really get unsightly. You know, even going down the interstate or state roads or farm market roads or whatever, and I mean, Verizon got plenty of money. They can put up some nice big old permanent pine trees or something, you know? Like y'all to consider that, whoever's got authority over that, look into that, if that's possible. I'd rather look at a pine tree instead of another galvanized, cell tower. The thing on the, insurance, I know it's only, $6,000-7,000 a year. I think all of us in this room have to have insurance. I never any longer, I've been with several major carriers throughout my adult life and regretted trusting them to make sure that they didn't take advantage of our situation, and I've repeatedly found myself paying too much insurance over the years. So every couple of years, I'll put a check on my insurance carrier to make sure they're giving me a fair price, you know, compared to the market. So when I heard today that the airports, we've been doing it forever, that's an open opportunity for some of them greedy insurance carriers. I think we've probably got enough people employed by this county to run a check on the policies, make sure we're not throwing more money or unrealized money, however you want to call it. It's lost to me. It be spelled out anyway. It's lost. So I'd appreciate it if somebody would look into that. If not, I mean, I would think after we've done the other mistakes that's been made since I've been coming to these meetings, I would think that we would be a little more cautious and make sure those things ain't happening. You know, I mean, surely on this policy, it couldn't be more than a few $100s. But if that's the attitude we go into these things, well, we've been at them forever. Let's just keep doing it. I don't like that. I've said enough on that. This is the one that's probably not going to be very well received, but I feel compelled to do it. Last time Mr. Waldron was here in my presence, pretty much the same thing was said. You know, we're dealing worldwide with a virus that's 99% recovery rate, arguably, give or take a point or two. Okay, and when I heard him say that we're working on the 5-year-olds, it impresses me. You know, I don't hear anybody in any government agency talking about prophylaxis, preventatives. Why? You know, we got people starving all over this continent, and yet they're wanting to inoculate, or they want to stick everybody, but they won't feed them. You know, but yet we got enough money to put chemicals in people's bodies that we don't know what's going to do to them. You know, okay, let's go with the 75% of the people that's taking at least one jab. All right. There's 25% of the population that hasn't had a jab, that don't trust this system, that doesn't trust Chief Medical Advisor Fauci because he's perjured himself to Congress and to us. All right, so there's people that don't trust our medical system any longer, and so they're trying to fight this virus with prophylactics and preventatives. And how about getting behind the entire population of this county, you know, and not pushing something that we don't have proof of? How about offering alternatives, you know? How about doing a little bit of research? I don't know this man's job. I don't know what he does, what he's limited to, the department. I just know that I didn't hear back then, I don't hear now, any support or research being done. I don't hear the numbers, they started after people complained about not providing the number of deaths, they were focusing on the cases. It's just, I don't trust the system, and I don't want to die, man. I want to live more today than I ever have in my life. I've never been happier, more optimistic about living, and it nauseates me when I think of a 5-year-old child that has almost no possibility of dying from this virus, and they're going to inject something into him or her that you know, could kill that child. You know, it nauseates me. It makes me sick that I'm a part of a population that's okay with that. You know, and yet not working on providing them with proven preventatives. You know, so I think another thing. I know I'm probably going to be thought of by several as an extremist. Maybe I am. I don't know. But, you know, I've been in environments, which we're all in the environment right now. There's a big argument. I'm not an anti-vaxxer, by the way. Anybody thinks I am, they're not reading me right. Like I said last time I was up here on this topic, I've taken vaccines, proven vaccines, animal tested vaccines. I'm for them. They save lives, all right? But there's another debate going on. It has been our entire lives, everybody in this room. The debate about creation and evolution, all right? Down the road in history, this is going to be looked at similarly as that, because there's a percentage of the population, we can't find the truth of who, you know, I don't believe any of them on any of it, because they lied to us. Even the head guy that's drawing 450, the highest paid government employee in our country lies to us and gets away with it. And he's supposed to be telling us the truth, all right? So, again, comparing this vaccine or prophylactic debate to creation and evolution, I find them very parallel. And I think in history, it'll go down that way. I could be wrong, you know. I've been wrong before. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Mr. Hand? Keith Hand?
Chairman, board members, I just wanted to, a couple things, and I, we can end everything on a real positive note. First, I'd like to publicly acknowledge Hillary and the Chamber and all of their staff for the job they did with Christmas on the Square. It was probably the biggest event that we've had in the last 5 years. There was more people lining the streets this year for the parade than I've seen in many, many years. It was super busy Friday, Saturday, highest turnout for the run Thursday night. And also, thanks to Commissioner Stapleton, he made our job a whole lot easier. We're the ones that are charged with washing that ice out of that slide. And because of his work with the skid steer, it made it a whole lot easier. And then Mr. Harris's staff bringing the dump trucks. A few years ago, we tried washing that stuff down the sewer system, and of course, it was really cold that night. It got in there and made a solid block inside the sewer system. We were up there till about 3 a.m. trying to get it washed out of there. So we hit a record this year. We were about 45 minutes to an hour. We were done and out of there. So, and the last thing, I want to acknowledge our honor guard. Week before last, they had the the state fallen firefighter memorial down in Ocala. Honor guards from all over the state come to participate in that event, and our guys were chosen out of all of them that showed up to walk in with the federal and state colors folded and raise them on the flag for the ceremony. So they did a phenomenal job. We had 2 more of our guys they actually do the honor guard class every year during that week, and it culminates at the memorial on Thursday. And so we had 2 more of our guys go through the actual class this year, and they did a real good job. But they're being recognized all over the state now, from little old Suwannee County as one of the top honor guards in the state. And unfortunately, we've had a lot of deaths in our area that they're getting better and better at from the practice that they've gotten doing these funerals. But they're just phenomenal guys. They do all that stuff on their own time, all the practice and everything they come in and do. You know, they're dedicated individuals to doing what they do, and it was pretty cool honor for them to be chosen, you know, out of everybody down there to bring the federal and state colors in and raise on the flag. So just wanted to make sure that they were acknowledging you guys about that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Scott.
Eddie's been listening to Jimmy Norris, and he takes longer than anybody else to say the same thing. A couple things on a positive note. Our signups for soccer is over 400 this year, which is probably 50 more than we had the year before. We had a group come in today at the airport. We knew they were coming, but we had lots of people interview our tenants. So we have been Public Works and Fire Rescue and some others, but what they're doing is a statewide study on economic impact of airports. Suwannee County will be highlighted, and our numbers also with packets of information and also talking points for organizations and that kind of stuff, talk about what Suwannee County Airport does for the community. You know, that's a pretty cool thing that's happening. But another positive thing that's happening at the airport. Last year, we brought on Jet A, and it's been growing. Give you some number of differences. Last year, the total year, we sold $150,000 worth of fuel. In October and November, we sold $50,000 this year. So our numbers are definitely increasing. The traffic is increasing. We're just doing a lot more, pushing a lot more fuel than we ever have, and we like that. But it's the team that we have out there that's making that happen, with customer service and providing the service, come in on the weekends to take care of people they need to on the jets. So that's making a big difference. That's what I just want to share with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Scott.
Anybody else? No.
Mr. Chairman.
You already made me late today.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I would like Ms. Cannon, if you could give us a number probably for Thursday night, Friday, and Saturday, for the people that probably.
So the numbers that we've kind of been given over a whole is somewhere close to maybe 30,000. You know, kind of no way to tell. I can tell you how many runners we had, but with Friday and Saturday night being a free event, there's no tickets, you know, there's no head count. But some of the vendors that have been there, been coming for an awful long time, have indicated that, you know, they feel it's somewhere around 30,000.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Righty. With that, Mr. Pravat, do you have anything?
No, sir, I don't.
Mr. Harris?
One thing I plan to bring on your next agenda is some information on the possibility of buying a paving machine. Not because we want to be in the business of paving roads, but we get into so many of these repair situations, and we, I think, all have to recognize that the funding from the state isn't coming fast enough for us to keep up with the condition of some of the roads. So what we're planning to do with 250 Band-Aid, and we also have in the budget funding for repairs to 10A. I'm going to take a close look at what we've budgeted there, see if we can buy a paving machine and cover the cost of materials and go out there and do those repairs ourselves and cover the cost within those budgeted lines, pay for that machine, and then we would have it for additional repairs like that going forward. Because we deal with that all the time, honestly, those bad sections. So I'll bring that to you in the next meeting.
Mr. Fleming?
I don't have, Mr. Chairman, anything. I'm just glad to be here tonight, and I talked to Commissioner Land earlier, and actually our father was doing, he said that it's coming on good, commending, and last blessing of itself, and we continue to pray for each and every one. Commissioner White, Mom, and I texted him over the weekend, and we just have to love each other, care for each other. That's the solution too. So I just, you know, as we enter these holidays, so much stuff happen around the country, the world, again, and, you can't turn a blind eye to it. Face our stuff. You just, you're thankful to be here.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Mr. Stackman.
Yeah, just a couple of things. Just again, just want to thank Hillary and her staff also. That was probably the biggest one I've been involved in, being a board member with the chamber and getting things kind of slowed down with COVID and things. But we actually had a flood in the parade, and that was unbelievable, the amount of people. I mean, it was all they could do to keep the kids back, and the adults. Some of the adults keep them back from the floats where you can get through. I mean, just grateful to see what we grew up seeing, I guess, is people being able to get together and have a smile on their face and really care about each other and just be happy. It's been so long. I just remember sitting in this chair for 2 years and just being so depressed with dealing with COVID. And just meeting after meeting and just nothing to leave and be excited about. But this weekend, it was a turning point for me as far as just from a personal standpoint, just to witness the people in Suwannee County and then be out, being able to share and love one another. Once again, I just want you to know this board is thinking about you and your family, and know that it asks for peace for her and your family. At the end of the day, we only got one mama. We know you're in a tough position right now. Just know we all love you.
Thanks.
That's all I got.
Appreciate it. Mr. Lane.
Yes, sir, this meeting's already went longer than I thought it would, but I got a lot to say, but I'm gonna blow through it real quick. Thanks to Hillary, Christmas on the Square, that's awesome. You know, everybody loves that, all of North Florida, somebody from everywhere in North Florida comes to that. Number two, just wanna again thank Mark and his staff and those custodians. Sometimes they're the least thanked out of all of our departments and the last ones to leave the building every night. So we appreciate them, I know I do, and the job that they do. Mr. Fleming, you know, please, no disrespect to you on the 112th. I appreciate your vision. I appreciate the work that you did. I mean, you guys bought that piece of property at a good price. We have the county sitting on equity there. I think the vision has changed. I know, you know, mine has, but I don't mean any disrespect for you or the work that you did.
It's all in your blood.
And then, further what Commissioner Stapleton said, if there's anything we can do for you, Commissioner White, to help, anything I personally can do or this board can do to help alleviate the struggles that you're going through right now, I've been there. Don't hesitate to reach out.
Just, again, the Christmas on the Square was amazing. Like the Veterans Parade, I was able to watch the parade rather be a part of it. And again, it just gives you a different perspective, kind of like Commissioner Stable was saying, what we grew up like little kids sitting there watching it, 50 years old, you know, it was just fun. It was just fun, man. And I love it for our community, and like you said, they come from miles around for that. Again, Mr. Fleming, you know this, and just like Commissioner Land said, we just want to work together as a board. You know, I've always said that. I love for us board members to agree. We don't always agree, but as long as we keep our sights on the people of Suwannee County, we'll always be successful. And I believe we're all with that. And Commissioner White, it goes and said, anything you need, you just reach out.
Appreciate that. Thank you. I won't take long. I appreciate all the prayers from my mom. Could I get a motion to dismiss?
So moved.
Second.
Motion to dismiss. Thanks.